I was up north on the weekend and was lucky enough to get to meet quite a few people, some of whom who are trying to use the mirror box to facilitate movement in an impaired hand on one side of the body. There's an earlier video on the mirror box, and you might check that out first. And after you see that, maybe come back to this one. You can see I've got the brain out, this rubber brain. And of course, the brain is sitting on a table tennis table very close to the bat, because I actually see the brain and the bat and table tennis going very, very well together. Mirror box doesn't need to be used in the context of table tennis, but it can be. But it can also be used in a number of other contexts. Back in the day, when I was helping to develop this technique of the mirror box, my aim was to attempt to see if using a mirror might help people who have had unilateral stroke. Now, I don't have the mirror sitting in front of me because I've got way too many objects here, but just to brief you on this, and this is in the other video, you just take a standard mirror and you can just go to a $2 shop and buy one, at least here in New Zealand. I'm sure you have cheap shops, you can buy them in other places. So imagine my hand right here is just the mirror. In fact, let's just be like my bat's the mirror. And let's say that this is the front of the mirror, so I can look into the mirror. Obviously, if I look into the mirror, I'm going to see myself. I'm going to see my face. But assume the mirror is set up like this on a table, and I'm looking into the mirror, and my right hand is impaired for some reason. It could be impaired because I've had some sort of a stroke. It could be impaired because I have some kind of condition. Maybe I've had an injury. But the way the mirror box it attempts to operate is the hand that's impaired sits behind the box, so you can't see the hand. So now I cannot see the hand that's been impaired. But if I look into the mirror and I move my good hand, and you can sort of imagine this as well, if you're looking into a mirror, in the mirror reflection is going to look like it's my bad hand that's actually moving really well. So in fact, my left hand, that is the healthy one, is reflected in the mirror. And if I look into the mirror, it looks as though my right hand is moving perfectly well. And that's the trick of the mirror box. Just remind you, I'm not a medical doctor, but I have had training from one of the best neurologists in the world who studies Parkinson's and movement disorders and cognition. So I was very, very lucky to have that early training. But again, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not giving you a prescription like medication, but I'm just telling you what we have learned from the research. What I've been suggesting to people if they want to try is if they want to try to get their impaired movements to perform better, one way, according to the research, is to give your brain as much good feedback as possible. So the good feedback that a person would get would be, for example, the feedback from the other hand through vision and also through the taction or tactile sense. The fancy word is somatosensation of that hand. Now, why would this possibly work? Well, that's where I get to the brain model. As you well know, there's two hemispheres of the brain. There's a few videos on this, left hemisphere, right hemisphere. And of course, if you were to split the brain, then you see the inside, and you actually see a very thick band of fibers, the corpus callosum, which connects these two sides. So these two sides can talk to each other. There's also an earlier video on that. But what I do want to tell you is that not only do the two sides talk to each other through the corpus callosum, and there's some other connections too that can be active, but there's a form of crossed connection going on in the way the brain is controlling the hands and receiving feedback. So the way it works is that the left hemisphere of the brain, so that's on this side here, has a motor strip, or some people say motor cortex, and that sends signals that are output, and they go down through the middle of the brain through a place called the medulla of the brainstem, which can't really show you, very well, but it's in here, sort of inside here. They cross, and in the normal situation, they cross and go to the other side. So that results in the left cerebral hemisphere sending motor signals to the right hand, and the right cerebral hemisphere sending motor signals to the left hand. In addition to sending those motor signals to the opposite hands, signals are also sent to coordinate the two hands across the cerebral hemispheres via the corpus callosum. What research has shown is that if a person uses a mirror box and does an action with one hand, let's say in this case, a sequential movement of the fingers, and looks into that mirror box and sees the other hand moving, let's say the other hand's not moving at all, and the other hand, the right hand, is completely just still. So the left hand's moving, person looks in there, it looks like the left hand and the right hand are moving. We call that a bimanual task. And what's so interesting is if neural or brain activity is at the same time measured using a technique that just has little sensors sort of over like a shower cap looking thing. It's called EEG, and the fancy word is electroencephalography, measures those electrical signals on the scalp. What's found is that there's brain activity associated with the motor cortex of the hand that's actually still, just because you're looking at that realistic movement in a mirror. So you can see, logic would tell us that using a mirror might actually directly activate that cerebral hemisphere to control that hand. So that's only one thing about the mirror box, and I can tell you more. And I can also post some published research on that I think should be accessible if you want to have a read. And I can do that in a later video. So stay tuned, enjoy the mirror, and remember that the brain is very, very adaptive, and we know no limits. So try the mirror box if you're interested.